Good morning to you, Grenada, Carrick, Petey, Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. It is 4 minutes actually gone past the hour of 9 o'clock in the morning time. Welcome to The Point for today, the 25th day of the month of February. I'm Joseph Cadore, and indeed it's a pleasure being here with you on this wet, rainy Friday across, Grenada, by most parts. I'm not sure what's happening in the other parts of the Triad State. But indeed, and it's always a pleasure being here with you, and we say thanks for being part of the conversation. I want to say good morning and welcome to our viewers on Channel 7, Channel 11, and those of you on cable via Channel 20. Those of you on the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gd, or you're joining us via our Facebook feed or our YouTube channel. Friday, and we did indicate that we had a shift of rescheduling this week, and this morning we have representatives from the Community Relations of the Royal Grenada Police Force, and this morning we'll be talking about aggressive crimes, the use of offensive weapons, and certainly we giving you the opportunity as well to be part of the conversation, whether via your calling on the direct line or if you make your contribution via our Facebook, our WhatsApp portal, which is 435 2041. So I want to say good morning to you, gentlemen. Indeed, it's a pleasure having you here, and welcome to the program this morning. How are you?
Well, good morning, Joseph. Good morning to Grenada, the viewing and listening public. It's a pleasure to be here to share information with you that can help you in your daily lives.
Indeed, it's always a pleasure having you, and we want to say thanks for being part of the program this morning. Let's start the year. You always get worried when the year starts off, gentlemen, with a loss of life, whether through murder, homicide, whatever the legal jargons that you would use. But certainly, once there's a loss of life, it is always a matter of concern for the RGPF, and especially those when it just grievous, heinous crimes. It just adds another layer to the concern that we all share. 2 months gone in the year, gentlemen. What's your assessment of what's been happening on the ground here at home?
Well, just to give a brief summary, for the last year there has been a 3% decrease in general crimes. But what we recognize and we say is of great concern to us is the use of offensive weapons in most of those violent crimes.
Define by law, what is it you would refer to as an offensive weapon?
So an offensive weapon is anything that is made or adapted to be used for the purpose of inflicting a wound or causing bodily harm to someone. So for instance, you could buy a cutlass. It's already made. It's made for cutting bush, but you can use it. It's already fitted to inflict a wound. Or something that would be adapted for that purpose. Take for instance, a piece of steel, and you sharpen the edges. You adapt it to use it for that purpose. So that would consider to be an offensive weapon.
Quite interesting. And I guess that would probably be anything, a bottle as well, I would assume.
Of course, a bottle can be used, anything can be used. Could be in school. Sometimes you find students using their pen or their pencils to inflict wound or cause injury to someone. That too can be considered an offensive weapon. A stone.
And I think for the RGPF and as a measure of concern for society, are you in any way concerned in terms of the level of violence that's been perpetrated within our society? Not necessarily those that may end in murder, but what can you tell us from the RGPS perspective in terms of acts of violence across society? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? Well, what can you tell us?
While I would not say that it's on the increase, we would say it's of great concern to the RGPF. We are noticing it. There are high calls for service as it relates to offenders using offensive weapon. And this morning, we want to focus on basically encouraging and imploring the general public to exercise greater tolerance. We cannot stop conflict. As human beings, we would agree, we would disagree. This is something that would not change. But we are saying to persons, if you're contemplating using an offensive weapon, then you are wrong already. Now, there are penalties for just having an offensive weapon in your possession. And should one go on to use that offensive weapon to inflict a wound or cause harm to someone, then you're looking at greater levels of offenses. So just having it in your possession is illegal to begin with. Using it, you're going to get yourself in further trouble. So we are saying to you, find different ways of solving conflicts and disagreements.
And I'm agreeing with you, officer, because I think the general concern, because I can hear people saying, well, it's an offensive weapon. But as you said, Noel, the concern is what happens to our tolerance with each other. And at the end of the day, when tolerance and the lack of tolerance becomes a factor, almost every or anything can become an offensive weapon. Something that may seem a spoon, a pen in one's hands. So while I agree that the use of the offensive weapons is one thing, I know for the RGPF, your concern was how do we address with what seems as though the increasing occurrence of violence and, as you said, the question of conflict resolution. But what in your estimation is driving what is seen as that growing occurrence of violence in our society?
Well, from our observation, we know that there are different situations that individuals are facing. In recent times, we have seen maybe an slight increase in domestic violence. We know that a lot of persons were out of a job because of the COVID, and this too sometimes it can bring on the frustration and the stress. And people, without proper direction, they would turn to alternatives that sometimes, lead to further frustration. For example, drinking alcohol or, just on the block chilling and using illegal substances. And that too can alter the thoughts, the way they would think normally. If you consume too much alcohol, sometimes, you tend to think differently, and that can lead to conflict that you wouldn't resolve in a proper manner. And the use of weapons, we see it as just something that is really bothering us. And we think that it's not the duty of the police alone, but we want to get everybody involved in solving this problem. We want to take it to the wider community. We want to re-establish and reclaim the grounds that we have lost over the years. Because in my time growing up, I remember people saying that it takes a community to raise a child. And then, it used to boil down to the family. But these days, if an aunt would correct a nephew for doing something wrong, then the mother or the father would get vexed and act in this kind of manner. But instead, what you see happening these days, when conflict arises, instead of people, partaking to put peace, they would take out their cell phones and they would start videoing and encouraging. And we understand that the threat that they would face from that person who is the bully at that time, they might be in fear that if they take part or they step forward to assist, that this person may attack them in the future. But as we have seen, take for instance the Shantimel issue, where we had the community standing up. It sent a message. Yes, but in some communities where you find people remaining silent, then the wrong prevail. and the wrong seems to be the right thing to do. Yes, so offensive weapon and the use of violence to resolve conflict is something that we want our communities to stand up to. And you know, we expect the involvement of some of our greater organizations, for instance, the churches and some of our social groups within the community. And the police has, since in many different policing districts, established the Citizens Advisory Body. Mm-hmm. And these are just some of the groups that we use, you know, to spread the message, to get the information out there to the public, and, you know, to have a deeper interaction and to reclaim some of the grounds that we have lost. So
those grounds that we've lost, and I don't think there's any argument, gentlemen, that we've lost some of our moral suasion, our moral compass. Some of the years ago there we had absolutes, right and wrong. Now we live in a society where everything becomes relative. So if I feel like, I do it. If I feel not to, I don't. When did we get into this new sphere? And what do you think were some of the factors that introduced it?
You know, that is deep, and I think there would be various reasons, and being exposed to information, because we are living in times where basically it's not just the Grenada culture. Just on your cell phone, you can access culture, different beliefs, different ways of doing things in different countries at your fingertips. And there is the obvious impact of that, and persons being exposed to different information, and that has resulted in behavioral changes. However, I still believe as a country, we have a population that still have confidence in the police, and things, while it needs to be addressed, we are not at that level where we have lost the battle. And our message this morning is that the RGPF is prepared to stand with every single organization and every single individual out there that has that intention of seeing a better Grenada society. We are willing to work, we are willing to combine our efforts. And I believe if we work together, we will be able to achieve our goals.
Conflict resolution, and I guess the question is, because it has become one of the topical issues, not just for the IGPF, but I know churches, non-governmental group. How do we get our society to become more tolerant, more patient? Years ago, we were thought, Blossom was thought to count to 10 when I walk into the newsroom and I decide to agitate her. No longer does she count to 10. Blossom actually gets to 0.5 and she reacts. But we talked about it, not ignoring conflict, and it is one of the strategies that's employed in terms of reducing on the occurrences of violence. Don't ignore it. And that calls for everybody. We need to change the culture. We said right now everybody pulls out a cell phone, and Blossom records me doing all my wrong things when I'm here in the office. How do we change that? Where do we start?
Well, Joe, just to give you a little insight, over the years, you know, I've came to the harsh reality that, you know, it's a deep culture, and I would always use myself as reference. In growing up, I remember when we do something wrong, our parents used to give us the licks, a lot of licks, right? And a lot of people grow with the idea that, you know, when something wrong is done, you have to resort to this kind of violence. But our modern, you know, culture is that you speak to children, you do a lot of more talking, you know, and I think that is one of the ways we need to go. We need to stem it from childhood, and so that the culture would grow into adulthood. And so the transition would take place eventually where, you know, people understand that is what we really need to do. If we cannot talk it out, let's go our separate ways. Yeah. And that's the way we need to go. And as we on that aspect of it, I just want to add a little clarity to offensive weapon as we are speaking about offensive weapon, because I guess time is running and we may not have time to go back there. So our people in my community, sometimes you listen, you line on the block and you would hear somebody saying that, you know, them fellas down the road, they planning to beat me back and I'm walking with my knife for them.
Right.
But in their own humble opinion, they think that they're doing something right and they think that they are protecting themselves by walking with a knife. But just the mere fact that you're walking with the knife, your intention is to use it. And that make it offensive. You might say you might be using it in defense, but the intention that you're walking with it to use it makes it an offensive weapon because you don't have no lawful authority to walk with it, or your excuse is not reasonable. Yeah.
What about hold on? What about a pocket knife, though? As we talk about walking with offensive weapons, so what about a pocket knife? You know, there's an Army Swiss knife. I walk to peel an orange.
So when the police stop you and the police ask you the question, what is your purpose for having that in your possession? And based on the excuse you or the may not be an excuse, based on the reason you give, then they would make a decision. Is that reasonable?
Okay.
Yeah. So take for instance somebody going to a party 12 o'clock in the night and they have a cutlass in their vehicle.
Right.
And they stop them and they say, "Well, officer, I go in my land at 12 o'clock in the night, going to the party." You know, so when you come from the garden, it's just an advice. Remove the cutlass. You know, if it's the hurricane season and you expect fallen trees and stuff and you're traveling and you have a cutlass in the trunk, I'm not going to tell you what excuse to make, but your excuse must be reasonable or you must have some lawful authority. Take for instance, you stop somebody, they have a firearm, they must have a firearm user's license. Yeah? Except they have authority under the law to carry a firearm, like for instance, a police officer. So these are what we look at.
What about, gentlemen, the way in which the tool, whatever it is carried, is being carried? For example, a cutlass, and I think sometimes we take it for granted. But I, for one, we get in a culture where a man is going to the garden. He may be honestly going to the garden, but he just has this cutlass walking freewheeling. That scares me, gentlemen. You on the left, I'm going on the right. I'm not assuming that you are a farmer. But what does the law, even if you have it for legitimate purposes, is there a right and a wrong way to carry that device, that tool or whatever it is they implement?
Even in the absence of legislation that might say that you do it either this way or that way, we are speaking about reasonableness, and I believe that will always be one of the balance in which the law would be weighed. And I will find it scary if I see someone with a cutlass just walking through the town also. So we would advise persons in cases like that, you can get the newspaper or some other material that can conceal that cutlass. And I think that will create a more comfortable space for everyone.
I'm having a question via social media, and it's an interesting one as to whether or not you check women's lipstick. Some says it can be used as a weapon.
Well, Joe, the whole I should say the spirit of the law, you know, it wasn't designed to just remove every object or every item from a person.
Right.
But as we say, almost anything can be used to inflict wound or injury on another individual. So some things, you know, we live it, you know, and we have to be sort of proactive in terms of educating the public. And that's why we speak about conflict resolution, because we recognize that we cannot stop every ball from going beyond the boundary, right? So there are mitigating factors. And so we speak about conflict resolution. So in case you end up in a conflict, you don't have to resort to using these petty objects and stuff.
There's always the option.
As you rightfully say,
Go ahead. Sorry.
As you rightfully say, a woman lipstick, she can use it to conceal stuff. She can even use the object itself to inflict injury.
On the issue of conflict resolution, I know we talked about not ignoring conflict. So as a society, we need to be conscious of that. You see somebody fighting, we all agree collectively that we should make an attempt to nullify, to reduce on its opportunities for it to escalate. Then there's also, you would agree, the need to walk away. And I think that was something I was taught as a boy. Walk away. If you have to count, my mother said, count to not 10, count to 100. Just to give yourself enough time. And while you're counting, walk in the opposite direction.
Yes, that is important. And I think Bob Marley would have characterized that in one of his songs. That he who run away lives to fight another day. We also want to implore on persons the importance of calling the police. Sometimes, you get persons thinking about every other thing other than calling the police. And usually the police is called after the fact. And our advice here, you may not have the ability to overpower that attacker. You may not even have the ability to even separate the two parties, but you can call the police. If it is your friend and you notice that your friend is in that argument and you have some level of influence, as far as it is possible, it might be advisable that you can say to your friend, think about your action. You can make one blow that could determine the rest of your life. 10 seconds, and you will spend the rest of your life in prison. That person could lose their arm. You may lose your life, because not in every case the attacker would win.
Right. And I think it will be an unfortunate imbalance in that equation, where for 10 or 30 seconds of misjudgment, you surrender the next 30, 20 years of your life. And if you think about weighing it in the balance, you start thinking, for that, my life, you know what? You know what? I'm not going to go there.
And there will always be persons that may look at other persons in the community. I was taught that life will have its good and its bad, and that you emulate the good. And there are a lot of persons in our society that are doing a lot to uplift their communities and the country on a whole. So, it's like two roads is put before you. You can choose life or you can choose death. You can exemplify the good or you can exemplify the bad. But there are consequences to our action. So this is one of the messages we are sending as well. If you engage yourself in productive activities and activities that are geared at building community and building your nation, you're going to make something out of yourself.
There's always the male ego, gentlemen. And very often that is as the seat of where these violent activities seem to stem from. The male in particular, and his ego. Me, I'm not no little boy. You can't talk to me like that. And he come up in my face, and I have to defend my territory because I'm a big man. And some people seem to see the right to defend themselves, the right to be able, to show that they're macho. It's a rite of passage to manhood. And that sometimes may be true in some instances, but very often it's the furthest thing from the truth, isn't it? You don't need to prove that you're a man by standing up and wanting to fight.
Something, Joe, sometimes, some of us learn differently. And for me, I've learned a lot in terms of, self-control, and through the passage of time, and through being involved in a number of different seminars and workshops involving social work. And my tolerance level, it grew to the point where somebody would even, hit me, and before reacting in a violent way, I would try to understand what that person is really going through. And sometimes, if that person's mental state is, disturbed, you too have to understand, listen, I don't need to react with violence against you with your violent conduct. So, maturity, and everybody wouldn't respond that way, but just tolerance for other people. If we go back to human rights and we decide we would respect other people's rights just as we want our rights to be respected, then, that too would go a long way.
And I want to add in there, Joe, before we go on. You speak about a person's right, and they may see it as their right to defend themselves. Now, that is one of the fundamental rights, that is afforded to individuals under our Constitution. But whatever action that you take, especially when we are looking at offensive weapons and such, now, whatever threat that you are faced with, the act that you're going to take or the action that you're going to take, it must be in proportion to that threat. For example, let's say someone is saying something at you or coming at you with a whip, and you choose to take a cutlass and go up against that person because you say it's your right to defend yourself. Now, when we look at the proportion and when we look at possibilities, you would see there that action that you take there, it will be very difficult for you to justify that. So in protecting yourself, let's look at the overarching circumstances and let's weigh that in the balance. Let's see, what can that person do to me? Because if you're thinking about murder, when somebody might be just even a glass of water at you, then obviously that does not make sense. So thinking is important in those situations. Avoiding violence is very important. A friend standing up for a friend is very important. Right. Somebody reinforcing that positive message in when something like that is taking place and say, brother, don't do that. Sister, listen, think about your family. You may have kids. You might be a mother. You might be a father. Those little words there do count, and trust, it really holds its weight in gold in moments like those.
We need to take a quick commercial break, but I often say I don't like anybody to tell me when to go sleep, what to eat, and where to go. So as such, I want to go home every night. I don't want to be in the hands of the police. I live by that golden rule. I want nobody telling me when to go sleep, where to go, how to do, to decide what I should eat and where to go. So as such, I ain't mix, I ain't sing, I'm minding my business. We probably need to really adopt the philosophy of drinking water and minding our business for the year 2022. Anyway, we take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we continue the conversation. We are encouraging your calls as well, 435-2041. We'll be right back after the quick commercial break.
Join GBN on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. for Interesting Grenadians, a program that showcases the lives of interesting and outstanding Grenadians at home and abroad. It's Interesting Grenadians every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on GBN. Don't you miss it.
Get ready for a season of grooving smooth and live on GBN. Grooving Smooth and Live is a 1-hour performance gig every Thursday from 8 p.m. featuring performances from our local musicians and short interviews discussing all things musical. Every Thursday, a different musician and a different instrument will be featured, from the violin to the saxophone to the trumpet, guitar and steel pan. Our local musicians playing, improvising and educating us on all genres of music. Join GBN with host musicians Matthias and Shireen and a special guest every Thursday at 8 p.m. It's Grooving Smooth and Live on GBN.
28 minutes on to the hour of 10 o'clock. We have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. You're alive.
Good morning, Mr.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Not one time, we went to a cabin. But before, this person saw this guy came before the house, stopped about a day before, and he hired a cooker, to the inside the bushes there. And when they tell us about it, we set the police on the guy. So the police came and they stand up on the weekend. And the guy sat aside, and when he goes for the cutlass, the police are arresting him. And which was Raffles. You know, he put it there before just to start a fight, so he could chop up with the other guy he wanted to chop or who he wanted to chop, and the police arrested him. So that was it. Thank you.
I see we're having a lot of feedback on that. I was trying to sort in my head what is it the caller was making reference to. But again, good morning to you. The number on the inside 435-2041, or you can submit your questions or comments via our WhatsApp page, which is the same number 435-2041, or via our Facebook page or YouTube channel. And my guest this morning, representatives from the community relations of the Royal Grenada Police Force. So we're talking about the use of offensive weapons and the extended conversation of tolerance. How do we become more tolerant as a people? Gentlemen, I want to ask you the question, but before I do that, there is a caller on the line. Classic, good morning, you're live.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning to
you. And to the officer, how you all doing? All looking real nice. Officer, here you mentioned about tolerance, but officer, when an angry egg and an angry sperm get together, is pray and fast now to help this child who grow under this situation to have tolerance, you know. Some of us as parents, we think we damaging our children more than the community, you know, because a child born like that is not easy to nurture that child to come to have tolerance. And the next thing I want to talk about, sometimes I just wonder what we really want. I heard a man speak about the situation with the police, what the guy lash and he find the case speed up. But I find is a change. I just wondering if that change is going to be for all of us. Because sometimes somebody do you something months before the trial, although somebody mentioned that this man did something 2 years in prison now. So I'm asking if the court changed like to speed up trial, that when somebody do you something, don't spend all these months before the matter hard. So if that is a change, I'm happy for it. So let us see if he's around the border.
Okay.
Have a good morning.
Thank you, caller. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Just to enlighten the public a bit. Now, matters before the court, they vary in terms of, you know, the category under which they fall. So we have some summary matters, you have some indictable matters. If it's an indictable matter, then you cannot plead before the magistrate. So therefore, you have to go through a lengthy trial or what we call a summary review, and then if there is sufficient evidence, then it goes before the High Court, and that's another trial. Yeah, but if it's a summary matter and it goes before the court, if someone was arrested and they go before the magistrate court and they plead guilty, then that matter can be completed at the same time. All the magistrate needs to hear is just the facts of the matter. Yeah, but if the person pleads not guilty, then there have to be a trial, and that too can take some time. So it depends on, you know, the cooperation you get both from witnesses and from the accused person.
And that is so true. 22 minutes onto the hour. Let's take this caller. That's on the line. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Pleasant good morning.
Yes, good morning to you.
I'm calling to say I'm happy to see the policeman get justice so quick. I hope that will be all for other cases, because when people have cases in the magistrate court, it does be frustrated. You have to be only walking up and down for years, so time for justice to speedily recover in Grenada. So let me use the police one for example. So I hope things will be going forward very soon. So too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. 452041. That's the number that is on the inside. Conflict resolution, we've agreed as part of that conversation that we should try our best to de-escalate any situation. You're saying?
Yeah, Joe, I just want to remind the public that the topic this morning is violent crime or offenses against the person and the use of offensive weapon in the process.
Yeah, trust me. That's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, because I recognize that, we going off a little bit.
It is what it
is. But we do appreciate if there's anything that we can assist you with, immediately that you think you need to address. We will be in a position to assist. If not now, when we get the information and
we have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Joe and there. I just want to say to the nation this morning, let us turn our lives over to the Lord Jesus Christ. People living in troubled times, and it's not getting better. Let us look at what is happening in the world. Let us wake up from our sins, from our sleep and our slumber, and run to the Lord Jesus Christ before it's eternally too late. The Lord is coming. All the signs are on the wall writing. The coming of the Lord is at hand. Time for people to repent, prepare to meet our God. Everywhere you turn in this world is trouble in every hand. The Bible tells us in the last days, perilous time shall come. It's not getting better out here. All we need to do is to repent, bow our knees before God, give ourselves to God, and give what is due to God. Because God is holy. God is a God to be feared. And we don't fear God. We don't fear man. And what will happen to us as a people? People calling out for this, that, and the other. But we don't calling out for God. God has been good to us as a nation. God has been good to us as a people. And we still don't see that. All we want is the world, the pleasure, the wickedness. The Bible tells us it's righteousness that exalts a nation. Sin is a reproach to any people. Let us repent and turn to the Lord Jesus Christ. He is the answer. He is the way, the truth, and the life. Tell us no man cometh unto the Father but by him. Give God a chance in our life and we'll see the difference that he will do for us. God bless everyone. Have a good day. Thank you all.
Thank you. All the best. All the best to you. 42041, that's the number on the inside. We encourage de-escalating of a situation, and I wanted to talk about strategy in attempting to de-escalate. Sometimes we do it in ignorance, and I think your situation, we see it all the time, where two person is in a let's say in a tussle, a fight, whatever it is, and we go in, gentlemen, to assist, and you're trying to go as the hero, as a lone ranger, and you may just end up on the reverse end of it. What's the advice in trying to settle, bring some peace to a physical altercation?
Well, Joe, firstly, I would say that you have to assess the situation that you're getting involved in. If you think that you cannot handle it, then you try to get some assistance. Yeah, so because two eyes is better than one. Yeah. So you try to get some assistance, but we have been doing a lot of proactive, stuff in terms of trying to resolve conflict. And, just to mention, we have been going to schools, speaking to students, and sometimes the principal would point out some students who they think are in a little conflict with the law. And so we try to mitigate circumstances before, they end up in Richmond Hill or in the Dodge or Juvie as they call it. And we just want to emphasize you on the penalty for having in your possession an offensive weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you think about you going down the road, you just leaving home, and it doesn't take long, you leaving home with a knife, pushing it in your waist, just walking out the street. And sometimes the minute time you touch the street, the police van pulls up and the officers carry on that search on you. And you are caught with that knife in your waist, and you cannot give a reasonable excuse. because they know you don't have lawful authority to walk the road with it. And you just imagine you go into the prison for 6 months and you're not going to see your family, your loved one, your girlfriend, or the ladies, their boyfriend or their husband. You're not going to see your family member for 6 months just because you refuse to listen to what Corporal Noel and Constable Lewis was saying on the radio, on the television just last week or this morning. So we want to send a strong message to the public. And, we want to change minds. We want to change minds because we know for a crime to be committed, persons must have a desire. They must want to. If you don't want to, you wouldn't do it. Yeah, we want to take away that desire that you would have to walk the road with an offensive weapon. And if you do not listen to us, then the person that will be taking away the opportunity would be the police officer that would be arresting you.
Well, Granny,
having in your possession.
Granny always say, all who can hear, they go to feel.
That's true.
One way or the other. We have a caller that is on the line. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Good morning, Joseph, and how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I want to say something for the police officers because they are human beings and they are our protector. Now, if something happens and we don't call them to come and help us, who would help us? When they come to help you, you try to take the life away from them. You're trying to kill them. When you kill out all the police officers, who are you going to call when something happens to you? They come when you call them. The pastors say they protect the evil, the innocent from the evil that was going on in the world. There is too much evil, too much crime, too much hate, too much wrongdoing. And they don't respect the law. When the law comes, they just try to kill them because they don't want them around. They want to have the world on their own. The world doesn't belong to us. It belongs to God. And this is why you put police officers to save Israel and earth. Because if we don't have them, we have nobody in the world. Everybody wants to take over the world. Is ours now. We could do what we want. Satan busy. We have to rebuke Satan from our life and bring Jesus in our life forever. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and he wants to save us all from the evil that we face in the world every day. Too much crime, too much hate, too much wrongdoing. They want to do what they want and just get away with it. The police come to help. You whatever blow you give in the head, you knock him or you could have killed him. That's what they like to do, kill the officers overseas. They do them every day. They don't want them in the world because they want to do what they want in the world. Who the world belong to? The people in the world? No, it belongs to God. He gave us life to live in it. He said have it abundantly. We are live for him, with him, in him, from God for our neighbors. Love your family, love your friends, love your enemies if you have that, because we shouldn't have that. We don't want no hate in the world, we want love. We have to accept Jesus today and wait for tomorrow. He's very near, he's coming back for his world. You see how much things happening? We don't looking at that. And those things will happen. Watch Carnival and ready and they're ready to jump up. They don't go in the street, but remember, the virus is still raging. And the only cure we have for this virus in the world is Jesus. He is the way, the truth, and the only one who could save us from COVID-19 is Jesus Christ our Lord. It started since 2019. It takes so many lives. Millions of people die from this virus. It reached in our country, Grenada. Hundreds died from the virus in Grenada. We facing the thing still. So be away from it and be away from the wrongdoing and turn to God. He's the only one who could help us, our Savior of the world, the one that breathes the life we live every day. Love your neighbors as you love yourself. People going out, they're killing their own mother that bring them into the wall. Parents take care of your children, and then you go on, they grow older, they take the life away that you give them. They stab them to death, they kill them, they kill the children, their brothers and sisters. They have no love. Love makes the whole world grow, and if you don't have love in the world, you have nothing at all. We want peace, joy, and love, okay?
Thank you. All the best to you. Wonderful. We quickly ran another time, but as we on the issue of the offensive weapons and tolerance, I think certainly there's carnival in Carriacou this weekend, and we know those sort of events and occasions tend to, there's the euphoria of the event, naturally, music, alcohol, the free spirit that goes with it. People tend to lose track of their better judgment, and I'm assuming, as always, that there is going to be a zero tolerance approach to violence or anything of that illegal nature over the weekend in Carriacou. Just the same. Can you speak to that?
Yes. Once there would be any large gathering of persons, and I believe Carnival is some of the largest activities that we experience in Grenada, one can expect that those events will be properly policed. Some of the activities that you should expect, searches from the police, in terms of traffic and getting into venues, you would have those roadblocks. Safety is of paramount importance. The lives of the population, the lives of the people, this will always be priorities of the RGPF. And as such, I think over the years, persons have come to expect that sort of robust police action whenever they are having such activities. And on this occasion, we would see similar instances of that. We are going to urge persons and say, don't bring a knife to your fete, to the party. It's a long time since we have had any activity of that stage and at that magnitude. Let us not spoil it. We are still dealing with the pandemic. We are still dealing with other issues. And I believe the Caribou Carnival is being looked at as a sort of pilot as to how we want to do things going forward. So let's approach that and, behave ourselves, take the opportunity that is extended, have your fun, enjoy your carnival, protect your life, and also consider the lives of others.
What other advice you would give to the general public, Noel, in general, especially around these festive times, in terms of keeping themselves safe on whole and their property?
But Joe, generally, we just want to remind the public that, the safety tips always, are in our minds. And so sometimes, we lapse or we tend to slip on it a bit. But just remember, you're going outside there to enjoy yourself for Carnival. Those are some people living in Grenada to go up. Remember to secure your property, lock all your doors and your windows. If you have anything that can make it easier for someone, a perpetrator, to enter into your premise like a ladder, so you secure those things. You harden your target. You tell your neighbor that you're going out for the weekend or you're expected to be back on Monday, so they would look out for you. Those are the things. You leave a number with the police, and we want to, bring to the attention of the people who intend to go up there with the speed boats and stuff. We have had unfortunate circumstances in the past. Don't drink too much alcohol or don't try to overload your boats and stuff when you're going up to Carriacou. Sometimes the water can be rough. And our primary duty is to preserve property, lives, and to give you, encouragement to try to assist us in doing our job as well.
And to reinforce that point, I'm going to say that if you're thinking about getting on a vessel where there is no life jacket, no radio, none of the safety equipment that is required for safe travel, I think you should think again. As the officer said, we have had instances where persons have lost their lives. We do not want to see a repeat of that. If you find things looking sketchy, that might just be an indication for you to change your mind, probably find another safer vessel. If not, maybe abandon the trip altogether.
At the end of the day, your life is what more than just a trip to Carriacou for Carnival.
Indeed, it is. We have a caller that is on the line. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Joe, I know you do different, so I'll ask them two policemen. Suppose you'll pass by as your mother taught you. Anyhow, let's assume that you have a serious fight going on. A man with a cutlass and another one with a gun. I would like to know which is the best way to stop the fight or to put peace. Would you, as a policeman, shoot the one with the stick, or possible, when I say shoot him, disarm him, or whatever you would say, with the one with the stick or the one with the cutlass? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. Louis, Noel?
Joe, can you repeat the question first? Yes, having some problems. Yeah.
I think the caller was asking, posed a question as relates to disarming individuals in conflict. If there's one with a gun and another wielding a knife or whichever one, how how would you go about? I think in short, the question is, what strategy would the RGPF use in attempting to quell that situation?
Well, obviously, the RGPF the officers of the RGPF, I should say, are trained and skilled. And in every given situation, depending on the situation on the ground, a particular approach would be adopted. Now, as Corporal Noel would have alluded to earlier, our main intentions is to preserve life and property. And whatever decision that we're going to take in a situation like that would be a decision where we minimize the loss of life and damage to persons. Whether that means that you isolate a person, or whether that might be that you might employ several officers or particular safety equipment, so it be. But the most important thing there, we're going to take a decision where we reduce the risk of loss of lives and damage to property.
And I guess we'd have to agree, and I know you would agree with me, and it's only reasonable, that each situation an officer attends to is unique. There's no situation where you can say, well, last week there was a man with a cutlass and he did this or that. Each situation poses its own unique challenges.
And to add that, one of the strategies that the police employ normally in situations like that is to give loud, clear commands. So it wouldn't be uncommon to see an officer might be saying, "Sir, lady, put down your weapon." We want to be sure that the information is given and that person on the other end has that ability at least to listen to the commands. So whatever action that is taken, one can say that they had an opportunity to do either X or Y.
And I think it comes back down to judgment calls. I had the occasion one time just in my area with a gentleman wielding a cutlass. The police was passing. They came out and they had to swallow him about 4 or 5 times. And he kept inching closer towards the policeman. And it's not until they drew their firearm, it's as though something kicked in his brain. Okay. But he got, as you said, clear, definitive instructions. Put the cutlass down, sir. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. I think sometimes it seeks to that growing contempt and disregard for the law. While we had it, we're running out of time. But if we can talk briefly for the community relations unit, the issue of public transportation and loud music. It almost seems as though I'm asking myself, are we really having this conversation? Noel?
Well, Joe, if I could remember, I can't remember the exact year, but it was a long time ago that, legislation was in place and we took steps to remove these amplified songs from the public service transports. However, I believe that we have a very vibrant traffic department, and not only traffic department, because I say traffic department because they are primarily responsible, but all police officers, should take action. But I believe in situations like these, if something like that is reported to the police, then action will be taken. But, as any other thing, these drivers and these bus owners, they have their own strategies and ways of disguising the music system in these vehicles. But once it's reported, then the police will take action.
And would you agree to, gentlemen, I think the best way to address and curb the issue of loud music in public transport, is an awakening of our own consciousness as motorists, passengers, the commuting public. If I get on a bus, hello, driver, could you please take the music down a notch? You don't want to be selfish, but there's some cases where the music is just ridiculously loud. And I think each and every one just need to take that responsibility, turn it down. If not,
it's quite similar to speeding, because we have times that the passengers will just sit on the bus and accept that reckless sort of driving from the drivers. And at times, individuals will speak up. So, as I said before, anything that we really want to be effective with, we have to have that kind of collective approach towards that. And so stand up as a community, because a community in that instance could be the passengers on the bus.
Right.
They are all the passengers on the bus. That's the community. So you stand up and you speak to the driver and tell him that you wouldn't accept that, because it's a service that is provided, and you are the ones who's supposed to really enjoy that service.
And you
again, yes, again, we see that without tolerance and respect for each other, it's impossible to have that society where persons will live in peace. Tolerance is a very important ingredient in building a nation, in building communities, progressing in general. I believe we have unique circumstances with the busmen, because for those that are part of associations, I think there's an opportunity for the RGPF as well as other stakeholders, Transport Board, for we to come together, have a discussion, and address that issue. There are a lot of reasonable minds in reasonable places, and going forward, we have an opportunity to address the issue.
Before we wrap, I think just as a means of assisting and encouraging the restoration of a more balanced society, I think each and every one of us need to take responsibility. I think very often as the populace, the citizenry, we lower our standards and we keep silent when we should speak out. We record the wrong set of things. We take time to record somebody being maimed or somebody in a violent altercation. Why do you need to do that and post it on social media? Maybe what you need to do, if you on and you see a busman engaging in reckless driving, record that, post it on social media, set your comments, let the conversation start. And the people would realize, you know what? If you start saying, no, we will not accept this as a society, sooner rather than later. I've had occasions where I see the busman, you know what? Drop me. I ain't getting into no long argument with you. If I don't need you to speed with me, I left home early enough, and even if it's not your duty to race me, I'm not interested. You take that personal responsibility. I think it's important that we do this. For all those of you as encouraged by Constable Lewis and Corporal Noel, if you engage in, you going to Carriacou for the festivities this weekend, remember, safety is of paramount importance. Take responsibility for your own personal safety. Then see how best you can assist your friend, if you dare, and do as best as you can to de-escalate a situation. If the situation you can assist, then you go ahead. If not, call the RGPF. Again, before you go, just remind us of those emergency numbers that persons can call if they need assistance.
Well, they can always call the police emergency line at 440-399 or 911, CID at 440-3921. Central Police Station is 440-2244, or South St. George 444-4454. That is for the St. George's district. But on the outside, they can always call the police emergency, and if you have a concern or you need to report a matter, then they can always put you onto the station or give you a number that you can call to report your crime.
And I must say, good news for the RGPF for the launching of premises as it is, that allows you for centralized digital taking of information. So even if I'm in Sates and I make a report, the police should no longer, it should no longer be a challenge of him saying to me, well, I don't know of it, because it is not digital and it is central. Again, we want to say thanks to the RGPF for doing what you're doing, keeping us safe, and encourage each and every Grenadian to take responsibility for our own safety as citizens as individuals. Until then, so long, everybody. JC loves you. Have yourself a great weekend. Carriacou, those of you going to Carriacou Carnival, try your best, be safe. Remember, we're still in the midst of a pandemic. Try your best to keep on the safe side. Keep within your circle and keep safe. Until then, so long, everybody. JC loves you. Have a great Friday.